Hello, after a long break, I am returning to the silver screen. There's an old joke told about a man traveling through the desert who has run out of water. He's desperate. He does have some money with him, some possessions, and he sees a man and he says, "Please, you must give me water." And the man says, "I don't have any water, but for $10, I can sell you a tie." Now the traveler, the wayfarer, did have $10, but he was so shocked by this response that he said, "I'm not giving you a penny. How can you talk about a tie when I'm dying of thirst? Tell me where there's water." He says, "Well, to tell you the truth, my cousin Morris has a restaurant in the desert. Just to walk another 3 kilometers." With his last ounce of strength, the wayfarer arrives to the restaurant, and his eyes are welcomed by a big sign that says, "Morris's Restaurant, free water, entrance only with tie." In any case, we know that water is really one of the foundations of life. And we're going to find out in today's parshah that just as it is a foundation in physical life, so too does it represent a foundation in spiritual life. And at the same time, we're going to shed some light on a kind of exotic, little understood area of the Torah, i.e., the laws governing ritual, purity, and impurity. I say ritual, meaning that the only thing that define these things as being either pure or impure are the Torah's very definition. Maimonides stresses that these have nothing to do with hygiene, nothing to do with cleanliness. They parallel a spiritual state. And what is interesting is that the phenomenon of ritual purity, which is called tahara, or impurity, which is called tumah in Hebrew, are in one respect relative, meaning that they become relevant when one is entering a higher realm, when one has to do something which is greater, which is more elevated. And so a contact with something that would typically bring tumah may not have any impact on the person's life, may have no ramifications, but yet if that person would want to enter a sanctified area like the Holy Temple, all of a sudden more is expected in a sense. The bar is raised, and therefore that which would previously have been unacceptable now becomes something which renders the person spiritually impure. There's a fascinating explanation of the Khatam Sofer about this phenomenon, a parallel, which very nicely illustrates this point. When there's a new month, the Rosh Chodesh, there are certain offerings that are brought, and one of them is called Chatat, which means a sin offering. Now this is curious because a sin offering is typically a individual offering which is brought when one is repenting for something that he or she did wrong. Why would it be brought by the community, and why on Rosh Chodesh? And so the Khatam Sofer explains that Rosh Chodesh, every new month, represents an aliyah, an elevation, and therefore without doing anything, that which we were doing previously, our erstwhile, meaning previous spiritual state, is no longer considered adequate for the new level that we are entering, and therefore automatically that which was okay before is now considered chatat. Chet in Hebrew does not mean literally sin, but means a lacking, something which is missing. By the way, even in the literal sense, this is what sin is. It means missing something, and that's what it's really all about. And so that is really, as we will see, the laws of tahara and tumah always follow these rules, meaning that spiritually they become relevant when the person is elevated. And that is why, by the way, the much misunderstood laws of the mikveh, which remove the state of tumah, ritual impurity, brought on by the wife's monthly cycle, which indeed, if she's not married, there is no stigma or anything else attached to that. What happens is that when the Kiddushin is brought about, when there's a state of partnership, a union between husband and wife, it is this union which is considered an elevation for them, and hence a higher level of spirituality is required, and that is why the mikveh must precede the reunification of the husband and wife. So it's actually a very enlightened and very beautiful perspective on this idea, far from the misconceptions. Now let's come to our parshah. In the parshah Shemini, and in general the entire third book of the Torah, Leviticus, which deals with the laws of Kohanim and the laws of the temple, and automatically, because we are in the temple, this level of spiritual purity is required, tahara, and hence they are outlined. And they're introduced in the Parsha of Shemini at the end. And in addition to a human being being able to become subject to ritual impurity, to become, in Hebrew, tameh, foods can also become tameh. And we will see a very interesting lesson from this. And we will see that there are three conditions that foodstuffs must comply with in order to have the potential to become ritually impure. And from this, we'll derive a very deep spiritual lesson in our everyday service to God.